right, Andrew from C1D Paintball, and a question been asked a few times about first strike, which is funny because it seems to be a topic that polarizes the community, you know, and it doesn't polarize me. First strike is another way to play paintball, and you know, it's not totally another way, but it's another option for paintball. So the question usually is for it is, first strike, you know, do you use it? Do you plan on using it? What do you think about it? You know, do you think it hurts? You know, all those questions lead into that, where it can polarize people, and that thing, people think it's not fair and all this. But, well, for, you know, as I find myself saying a lot, I can talk for some of the members of C1D, and the rest of them I can actually give an opinion on this because we've had the discussion. First of all, Connor and I, because he's my son, as I've mentioned so many times, so we kind of live together. You know, we both have the same markers. We each have a Cronus, and we each have a TMC. We tend to use the Cronus outside and TMC for indoors, which is another question for another video later on. But those markers cannot shoot first strike. Now, I know people, oh, you can mod it and do this and that. I'm not going to mod a marker, the internals, so I can use a dual use, because I just don't want to mess with the internals. I don't want me screwing it up or somebody else screwing up. Even if a pro shop, a good one, offers to do it, you know what? If I wanted to use a first strike, I'd get a piggy bank and I would save up for it. But the reality is we don't shoot first strike. Connor and I don't intend on getting one in the near future or in the future. It's you know, it just doesn't really appeal too much to us. It doesn't mean we dislike it. And even speaking to the other regulars at C1D, like Alex, and Zach's actually he's a speedball marker guy. But there's no real plans for any of us to get first strike anytime soon. What do I think about it? Well, the big variable here is that we play primarily at LaSalle Paintball, which is an indoor field, and small to medium size. I like to say medium, but there's a lot of facilities out there, so I say small to medium. So, you know, the perks of having first strike, of, you know, longer distance and accuracy. Well, the longer distance, because of the size of the field in LaSalle, is null and void, because a rental marker can easily hit from one end of the field to the other. Now, it's not going to be as accurate. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, there's no wind inside, so non-first strike markers are more accurate than, say, if you were playing outside in the same scenario there. So so that's a big reason why we don't really, you know, have it in the future of getting them. Now, I have played in games where they're being used, not at LaSalle, but at Commando D-Day, Commando Actions D-Day in 2019. I liked the setup they had because this was a lot of fun, and it was strategic because each side was only allowed to have a certain amount of people with first strike. So generally speaking, they're your snipers. And it's cool because just like you have a certain amount of medics on each side, it's even on both sides, and it's part of a tactic, you know. If there's snipers along the top of Hamburger Hill, for those of you familiar with the field, and even if you aren't, you can imagine it's a hill, you got snipers along top of it. Your first strike guys are there, you know, so you know you have to watch the approach, or you watch your approach and there are no snipers there because you think they are. That's where I'd put my first strike guys. So I like how they use it strategic there. Now, if it was open and you could just use them and half the other team had them and your team only a handful of guys, a quarter of them had it, you know, can it be a little unfair? Well, I mean, if you want to use a first strike, go get one. Personally, I do like that they even it out on both sides. A big fan of use what you want may say, well, that's like saying, you know, you can only have a certain amount of speedball markers on each side, blah, 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 or you have to watch the mods and all this. So this is where it can polarize people, because right now, you know, we're talking about a start question to an end, and that's what I give on my opinion, and generally the opinion of a lot of guys in C1D. But it's not a fluid stop and start question. You just go around in circles if you have this debate. And it does turn into a debate. But I like how they do that at Commando Action D-Day, where they limit it on both sides, because it adds a good strategic element to it. The other big game we played in 2019 was at Mirabel, where there were no first strikes. I got no problem with that. Had they had them, I think it probably would have been a good idea to limit how many on each side. But when you go into any big game and you have rules, you play with it. And even if LaSalle Paintball decided, you know what, we're going to add that strategic element. So if somebody wants to use a first strike, there's only 1 or 2 per side. I think 2 might be a lot, but there's only 1 per side. It can add a strategic element. So it's like, you know what, they got a first strike guy somewhere. So again, there's no wind in that, but they're going to be more accurate. It's going to get there quicker. If you take them out, it can flip the strategy. I'm happy they don't have it now. That's good, but it can add a strategic element. The question: does it hurt? Is it unfair to use first strike? I've been hit by first strikes because I'm not good. I get hit a lot. There's no denying, I think it hurts a little more, but when you play paintball, it hurts when you get hit, generally speaking. If it's just a flick, sometimes it gets, the chops. You know where the shots hurt. It can happen with any paintball. But first strike people that get offense saying, oh, it really hurts. It does hurt more because it's traveling. If it's going to travel further, yes, it's the way the little fin makes it go, but it is coming faster. So it is going to hurt a little bit more, but it's like, oh, it's unfair, it bruised me. You can get bruised from a round ball. Never used that term before. The fancy people in paintball use it, so I shouldn't use it because I'm not fancy. So does it hurt? I think it hurts a little bit more, but it depends where you get hit. It can hurt a little bit more, I guess is the term, but you know what? It's the way it is. The worst pain I ever got in paintball was turning my ankle. Yeah, sure, it stings a little bit to get hit, but there's no denying it does hurt a little bit more, but you're not talking about significantly more, and it depends where it hits you. Is it unfair? Speedball guns, even if you're not going automatic or semi, goes out saying, and not only speedball markers go semi and auto, but speedball tends to have the big trigger, and they do this finger thing that if I was like younger I could do better. Is that an advantage? Probably. Now, just my opinion, and again, not to polarize, it's just if I had to give an opinion, which one I would rather do without in a game, speedball markers where they can rifle off more shots quickly or first strike. I would tend to take first strike out. But again, if you're in an outdoor game, I would say I don't take it out, but limit per side. Indoor, I'm happy not to have them because it's not a huge advantage in that, but it's just if given the choice. Otherwise, it doesn't bother me too much, but I am happy they don't have it at LaSalle Paintball. It's just like the rules of no automatic, no semi, and no first strike. Would I really get one if I wasn't playing in LaSalle, myself and Connor? No, it's really, here's one thing. It's expensive. The game is expensive enough. The first strike rounds are very expensive compared to regular. That might not be a problem for everybody, and I'm not knocking it. It's different. There's extra parts to it, the way it's engineered. Of course it's going to cost more. Of course it's going to cost more. So you get a basic car, you get stuff. It's fully loaded. You get performance in that. But the cost to me is off-putting. And I don't want... the benefits it has is just not part of my game. It's like if you play speedball or hardcore mil sim or whatever. It's not my personal choice. I think people debating over it, it's kind of silly. When you mill down and you drill down, sorry, not mill down, you drill down to it, of questions, yes and no. Eventually at one point, I'd prefer for if there's going to be a first strike that it's even on both sides. And like I've said a couple times indoors, I really don't think it's a thing I'd want. But yeah, first strike is what it is. It's polarizing, and I can understand it to a certain degree. I'm not this guy that it's about skills. Oh, I've got skills with that. You know what? If you're accurate with your paintball marker, with or without first strike, and it makes your day when you wake up, it makes you feel better about yourself and a better human being, well, that's great. You know, and if first strikes help you, that's great too. And if you use it just to have fun and it's cool, that's awesome. I'm not going to dump on anybody for that. But at the end of the day, you know, first strike is what it is. Just like a paintball, a speedball marker, just doesn't really interest me, and I don't get offended when I get hit by one. If somebody goes fully auto on me and they're not supposed to, I get upset. But yeah, one of the best things about first strike, my best stories, is at Commando Action D-Day, where I was approaching Hamburger Hill, and you know, I'm at the time pushing 50 years old, and in an exposed area. And I kind of flopped. I was going to say I rolled out from a truck and I shot a guy. But no, I kind of flopped. It's kind of like, you know, like a beached whale. Like, I went on my stomach. First strike round over my head. I have my Cronus, pop 2 or 3 shots. Actually hit him. Felt so great. I'm going to put that clip in here. That might have been one of the only 3 kills I got all day. So I like first strike because it's great satisfaction when I take one of the buggers using it out. So first strike, don't lose your shit over it. It is what it is. It does not interest me, you know. It's the way it is. Some people like fancy ice cream. Some people like vanilla. I like vanilla. I like all kinds of ice cream. I'm on a diet. And I'm older than 50 now. So if anybody gets me, if I take out any first strike guys in the next D-Day, the old bugger got you. Thank you. Remember, help new players, whether they use first strikes or not.